everyone, and welcome back to the Cabral Concept. I'm Stephen Cabral, board-certified naturopathic doctor, looking forward to bringing you today's show on the top 10 reasons why and how sugar can increase your risk of cancer. This is a really important show, simply a show that you need to know so that you can help support your family, support your friends, support your coworkers, anyone that you care about, so that they too can live a longer, stronger life. Now, one of the big things is, again, we've been told before that sugar is not good for us. By now, we know that. But a lot of times, we don't know why. We don't know why that when we eat sugar can actually cause harm within our body. The hardest thing about nutrition is this, is that when you're putting food in your body, very, very unlikely that you have an immediate bad reaction to it. Meaning if you have a peanut allergy, sure, your throat's going to swell up, and that is a life-threatening situation. And sometimes if you eat a food like shellfish, you know that you're sensitive to it, all of a sudden you get hives, you get a reaction to it. If you have celiac and you have gluten or wheat or gliadin, you're going to get some type of digestive distress. If you have lactose issue and you have milk, you're going to have digestive issues for sure. Those things we know about. But for the most part, you know, we have some sweets, we have some cake, we have soft drink or just straight fruit juice, whatever it might be. When we have those things, we don't feel any different. There's nothing really that's changed within us. So we say, well, probably no big deal. Well, okay, maybe we put on a little bit of weight, but again, no big deal to our health. The problem is that these things just don't happen overnight. And that's why I want to explain it to you today. I want you to know that for the long run, you can't do this day in and day out. Can you have a cheat meal once a week? Yes. No big deal. No big deal. Unless you're sick right now and you're trying to get better, it's probably not going to make any difference at all. Like, really won't be that big a deal. I honestly believe that. And I believe that for the most part, it helps a lot of people. And it does that because they don't want to feel deprived of their favorite food. So I have no problem with you doing that once a week, maybe even twice a week, not 2 days in a row, of enjoying a food that you really like. Now, the rest of the time, 90+% of the time, you are eating the foods that we know are nutritious for you, and all you have to do is go back to any of the previous Cabral concepts, and I teach all of those, of course, healthy foods for you. Today, let's talk about sugar, though. What are we talking about? Are we talking about berries, and are we talking about really healthy fruit for you? Are we talking about the sugars in vegetables? Are we talking about sweet potatoes? Are we talking about yams? Are we talking about any of those things? No, we're not. We are absolutely not talking about those things. We're not. Those things actually, although they have sugar, have been shown to counteract cancer, to help us to live longer. It's shown all of those things, so we are not talking about those today. What we're talking about is processed sugar, even processed grains. So if you're having a lot of flour or baked goods or chips or any of these things, even if they say at one point, oh, this was whole grain, we're still talking about a processed food. I like to give this analogy. I talk about this all the time when I'm chatting with people over Skype or they're in my office. I say this: if you could take one of those products and in one hand just kind of rub it between your fingers and it turns to dust, think of a cracker, think of a cake, think of a pastry, think of any of those things. It just melts basically in your hand. If you do that, think about how quickly your body's going to process that, how quickly that's going to spike your blood sugar. Because we really are talking about blood sugar-based issues, which can seriously cause cancer-based issues. Now, again, there's a lot of things that can cause cancer. High stress, I mean, no doubt about it. In my upcoming book, I talk about the 3 triggers really for disease, and one of those is stress. It's one of those particular triggers. You'll see that in almost every case of an autoimmune disease, of alopecia, of cancer, there is this triggering event, this very, very stressful event. But we want to say in general, sugar is one of those things that's leading you to this dis-ease in your body. And now let's talk about why specifically cancer. Why these processed foods? We know Skittles, candy bars, all these power drinks that I've talked about on last weekend's Cabral House Call, why all these sugary things are not good for our bodies, right? We know what they are. Let's talk about though how it affects our cells. So from a cancer-based perspective, I want to tell you this, is that when you take in sugar, and it spikes your blood sugar levels. We're just going to say sugar today is processed food, okay? We're not talking about the healthy foods. We're not talking about the yams, the sweet potatoes, the carrots, the beets, the blueberries, the raspberries, green apples. We're not talking about those. Again, we're talking about the processed food that comes from a box or comes from a bag, okay? So now let's talk about it. When you eat sugar, it actually damages your cellular DNA, okay? This is how your cells replicate. that DNA is telling your body how to replicate properly. That is your genetic code. And we need to make sure that code and these genes and everything stays intact as those cells replicate. And we know just red blood cells alone, only talking about just the red blood cells, they turn over about every 120 days. So literally all of those red blood cells, now they're turning over every second of the day, but all of those red blood cells from today, 120 days later, all of them have turned over. It's an amazing thing within the human body. That means 3 times per year, you're getting a brand new full set of red blood cells. But we have to make sure that with all your cells, that those cells are replicating properly. I talked about that on a previous show with the telomere testing. And with that telomere testing, showing you how quickly you are aging because of free radical damage, potentially because of sugar. And I'll be talking about that as well. All right, another sign is that your body actually stops the process, which is really, really important, called apoptosis. Now, apoptosis is a normal process in the body which signals cell death. I was just saying that. So basically, we don't allow those red blood cells for live any longer than 90, 120, 130 days or so. They all have to turn over. And so what happens, though, is when you start to spike blood sugar and you increase something called IGF-1. I've talked about that before with people who eat a lot of high meat in their diet. So a lot of the paleo people where they think they're doing the right thing, but the problem is they're eating meat 3 times a day or eggs, and they're eating meat at lunch, more meat at dinner, and they're snacking on meat bars and all these different types of things. They don't understand that the longest lived people, they weren't doing that at all. Like, that's not a real paleo-based diet. That is a Western-based version of a paleo diet. Nowhere in the Blue Zones diet, nowhere in any of these indigenous tribes have we ever found them eating that much meat in a day. And it increases tumor growth. So really, really important that we understand that. And sugar, though, so insulin growth like factor 1 comes from, yes, dairy and some types of meat. But what happens, though, as well, is when we start to spike sugar and insulin, we can get those same specific effects from that as well. Okay, another one is increasing levels of estrogen. So the more sugar we take, we can start to really mess with our estrogen and progesterone balance. Again, it's all about spiking blood sugar and insulin levels. We can start to increase our own endogenous production of estrogen from exogenous sources. Now, what does all that mean? Well, exogenous would be outside of the body. We're taking in the sugar, and then we create abnormal levels of estrogen within the body. Now, that creates additional fat. It can create cardiovascular-based issues, and it can create increased levels of cancer. Breast cancer in women, prostate cancer in men, but many other cancers as well. Okay, the fourth way is when we boost levels of leptin, which happens is we start to get a metastasis of cancer cells. So again, this usually boosting levels of leptin wouldn't necessarily be a bad thing, but when we get this big spike all at once of blood sugar, now I'm talking about not one cheat meal a week, right? I'm talking about having like cereal for breakfast with a glass of like orange juice. Again, I've talked about this before, how that is not a good breakfast, okay? At lunch, having a drink with sugar in it, whether it's a Pepsi or one of those things, and then having a sandwich, this is going to spike blood sugar. And then for dinner, more pasta, more whatever, unabated by any real fiber, spikes blood sugar up and down throughout the day. That is not what we're talking about for a nice high fiber diet. Okay, so that's 4. The 5th one I want to talk about is increasing this thing called interleukin 6. And as we increase interleukin 6, we get additional inflammation in the body, or we get an increase in inflammation in the body. Now, when this happens, we know specifically with interleukin 6, when we increase interleukin 6, we actually get necrotic tumor growth. We get some type of cancerous tumor growth within the body. Now, in a healthy body, a balanced body, we're able to wipe out those cancer cells, right? We're able to create that apoptosis I talked about earlier. When we see those cancer cells, we have our natural killer cells that will also help to kill tumors naturally in our body, because our body is messing up every once in a while, right? That is happening throughout the day, but our body then keeps it in check. It kills those cells that are metastasizing that could form cancerous tumors. All right, next one is actually when you take in sugar, you are increasing cell division inside of cancerous cells. So this is one where you have a cancerous cell in the body right now. If you feed it sugar, it speeds up cell division, stimulating something called mitosis. All right, really, really important, because now you are proliferating the growth of additional cancer cells. important to keep that in mind. One of the big ones I talk about is this. We know that a great way to keep cancer cells at bay, another good way to help kill cancer cells is to increase your vitamin C. But here's the interesting thing. A diet high in processed foods, a diet high in sugar, zaps your body. It uses up your vitamin C and it blocks its utilization. And also, if you don't have enough vitamin C, you're not going to be able to detoxify very well. Vitamin C is one of those rare vitamins that we say, oh, well, it just helps with scurvy. No, it doesn't just help with scurvy. Vitamin C is a prolific vitamin. People say, well, its antioxidant power isn't that strong. They miss the point. So there's a difference between being really a great educated conventional medicine doctor. Again, I'm not talking down on conventional medicine doctors. But then reading a little bit of the research, be like, oh, vitamin C isn't as potent as vitamin E. It's not as potent as coenzyme Q10. But they miss the point because you just read surface level research. Again, that's why you just can't read an article online. Because here's the thing. Vitamin C is a recycler of other vitamins. And it's a potentiator of other vitamins and antioxidants in the body. So what it does is it makes other parts of the body greater. And that is big on phase 1, phase 2 detoxification with the liver. And that's also why in our daily all-in-one support shake, so my daily nutritional support shake, I put in 500 milligrams in each one of those shakes. Really, really important. And then when you do your Dr. Cabral detox, it has even more than that. You're getting at least 1 gram per day. I personally take a minimum of 1 gram of vitamin C every single day. I find it vitally, vitally important for my own immune system. But also, again, I'm someone who's very prone to high histamine levels, to mastocytosis. That vitamin C also helps to keep my inflammation and histamine levels at bay, which is really, really nice. But we'll save that for another show. Okay, next up, and I've spoke about this before. So it's called insulin growth factor 1. It's really, really important. It's called IGF-1. So I've talked about this before on my Cabral Health Calls because I try to help people. I know I can only spend a couple minutes answering each question, but I help people with a lot of these cancer-based issues that are going on, maybe with a family member who's not looking into it as much as they can. Here's such a key. Why are vegan-based diets? Why are green juices being recommended by even some of the top places? Like right here in Boston, we have Dana-Farber, one of the top cancer institutes, hospitals, centers in the world. And they're even recommending green juices and green powders now. So our daily fruit and vegetable blend, that's 22 organic fruits and vegetables. They're recommending greens powders like that because they know they're alkalizing. They help to decrease inflammation in the body. And it's cutting down, if you're getting more of your greens, then more of your heavy proteins, your red meats, your dairy. So again, am I talking about whether it's going to cause you to gain weight? No. What I'm talking about is simply this. It's a fact that they increase IGF-1. Now, if you want to put on muscle, it's fantastic. It is fantastic. Remember, when I was a senior in high school, when I was in college, when I was in my early to mid-20s, I was trying to pack on as much muscle as possible. Here's exactly what I did. I drank 3 protein shakes per day. Each one of those had 50 grams of whey protein. I ate meat for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. That's in addition to my 3 protein shakes. I took creatine. I did all these, they're natural, but I did all these different things. And it worked. It worked, no doubt about it. I put on a lot of muscle. I did. And my body just kind of blew up. I certainly wasn't my healthiest. Like I've said before on previous shows, I got pneumonia 3 out of 5 years. It was not an ideal time, but my muscles were big, right? And so it does work for what you're looking to do, but not to be a healthy human. I'll tell you that right now. So that's why you can look at studies and be like, okay, people lose weight when they eat more protein and less carbs and all those things. I totally agree. Totally agree with that. Do not disagree with it. However, you are increasing anabolism. And when you increase anabolism, Ayurveda knew this 6,000 years ago. How do you make a Vata body type larger? More meat or at least more anabolic-based foods. It doesn't have to be meat, but that's the thing. The problem is an anabolic body, cancer is an anabolic process in the body. Tumor growth, I should say. So tumors are an anabolic-based process. If you feed them additional hormones, they will grow as well, just like the rest of your body. That's common sense, but we've lost common sense. We really have lost common sense in conventional medicine. And it's my hope that we get that back really, really soon too, because we have all these really amazing high-tech instruments to detect disease, to radiate this and burn this and do all these different things. But if we just think about it hey, if you have cells replicating out of control, if you have an anabolic-based process in the body, what do we think about? What would be then more of a catabolic-based process? How do we balance that? Those are the questions that we're not asking. All right, we have 2 more to go. So something called angiogenesis. And this is basically a fuel source, a growth source for the progression of cancer cells. So when you feed them sugar, this is the main way that cancer cells grow. A lot of people don't know this. But cancer cells thrive in an acidic-based environment. They use what's called a lactic acid-based form of energy inside the cells, so very little oxygen, so that's the acid base we're talking about, a lower pH, and they use glucose as their fuel, sugar as their fuel source. So when you look at this, you say, okay, what do cancer cells need to thrive? They need sugar. They need an acid-based environment. Okay, sugar processed food provides that as well. You are literally feeding your cancer cells when you give them processed food. And that's why it also blows my mind when patients are in a hospital and they're being fed macaroni and cheese, they're being given hot dogs, they have goldfish, like insane things that popsicles that you should never see at a hospital. These things make zero sense. They have registered dietitians at these hospitals supposedly creating these meal plans, and it doesn't make sense from any perspective at all. And again, not coming down on registered dietitians because I know some amazing registered dietitians. The problem is a lot of the formulas they're taught in school are, okay, milk is good for you. Milk has calcium. No, absolutely wrong. Like that is not, again, totally old school thinking and completely backwards. Just because there's calcium in something doesn't mean that it's readily absorbable, doesn't mean it's readily usable. And if you read the research, it's like a 1 or 2% difference in women. And you can get better, more usable calcium in other things. But again, today's not on calcium. So our last point, the 10th way that sugar can fuel cancer growth, that can increase your risk for cancer, is by actually depleting your own natural glutathione outside of the cancer cell in the liver, but actually increasing it inside cancer cells. So this is a real issue. And the reason is this, is that you're actually fueling, so you're decreasing your own immune system. So you're weakening your own immune system by taking in sugar. You're weakening your liver's detoxification process. So again, what is your liver? Well, your liver is something that filters all of the blood in your body, all the toxins in your body, every single second of the day. It filters all the blood in your body, every single last ounce of it, every 6 minutes. That means all the blood in your body's been detoxified every 6 minutes, okay? That's why something like a detox is such an important thing. People say like, well, why did you pick that as your main thing? It's this, is that when someone does the Dr. Cabral detox, what they're really doing is they're cleaning up their diet for 7, 14, or 21 days, ideally 21 days. They're decreasing sugar. They're rebalancing their inflammation levels. They're helping to support their liver to give it more phase 1 and phase 2 nutrients. What is that? Well, it's selenium, it's vitamin C, it's zinc, it's glutamine, it's glutathione, it's N-acetylcysteine. I could go on and on. But that's what you're giving your body. That's what your liver needs. Where does it get it? Well, it gets it from food or it gets it from nutritional supplements. And if you're not eating the best diet, or I should say not about the diet, if you're not absorbing your nutrients, you can't help your liver as much as it needs. Plus, we live in a violent culture right now where we have over 77,000 man-made toxins in the environment. You walk outside, you don't even have to walk outside. There's more than 128 chemicals just in your house alone. That's the minimum that's been found. Orthomolecular medicine did a great study on this. They put that up. That's their minimum, literally. And there's 77,000 man-made chemicals just in the United States alone. And that's what we know about. That's literally what's recorded. Who knows how many more there are? And that's why literally we can't take this lightly anymore for ourselves and especially for our children. Remember, children don't have a full detox capacity up yet. That takes years to really strengthen the body to that capacity. They're much more susceptible. Really, really important. So I really do. I hope that these top 10 things showed you how when you take in processed food, yes, one meal, no big deal, right? You go to a party once a month or so and you have a slice of cake. Okay, I'm not coming down on you for that. No big deal. I'll do it myself. No big deal at all, okay? But here's the thing. We can't do it on a daily basis. We really have to stop this. And I'm on board with you. I'm in the same place that there's a lot of foods that I would rather be eating because they're tastier, right? A sandwich is a pretty tasty thing, but it doesn't mean that it's healthy for you, okay? And the other thing is this, ice cream, delicious. Grew up on really just cheap ice cream after dinner, hood ice cream, would have it all the time. So bad for your health. I was such a sick kid. That was one of the things that did it. Little Debbie snacks, Kool-Aid. I did all of these things. And it wasn't my parents' fault. They didn't know. These things are not taught in school. They're not taught by the media. If anything, it's exacerbated by the media with showing commercials for all these things that I wanted, like Fruity Pebbles when I was a kid and, Captain Crunch and all these things. They actually tasted gross, but I was told to believe that I liked them because they were sugary and they had food dyes, and all these different things. So what we have to understand is this, is that these things, although they taste good and they're much more convenient, they're not good for us. Yes, it takes a little bit more effort to eat healthy. It does. But it's worth it. And it's not always worth it you feel that day. It's not. But it's worth it when you don't get cancer, when you don't get the autoimmune disease, when you don't suffer in pain every day. I see these people in my practice. I see these people in my own circle of friends and family. They're in pain. Their joints hurt all the time. They wake up with brain fog. They would not be able to function if they didn't have a cup or two of coffee every single morning. If you want a cup of coffee in the morning, fine, but you shouldn't need it to survive the day, right? And also mood-wise, they're just low mood. Everything, it's just a struggle to get through the day. It's a struggle to have any patience. It's a struggle to just move through life, right? No, talk about energy. There's no energy to exercise. They have no interest in that. So I'm telling you right now, when you start to change the way you eat, you literally start to change the way that you live. Your life is different. Your energy levels are different. Your mood is different. It truly is. I had to go through all this myself. I didn't grow up this way. Hardly any of us did. I grew up on cheap foods. It's just, hey, that's what we had money for. There was a budget, and so we had to make it work for 6 people in my family plus a dog. That's just the way it is. Everybody had to eat. So it was less expensive foods. I'll talk about that in the future. So what I want for you, though, is that we have more knowledge now. We certainly do. We didn't have that type of knowledge when I was growing up. It wasn't mainstream. There was no one talking about it. Again, there was no internet either. So where are you going to read this? Where are you going to find the information? You're not. But you know the information now, and you can take this information. You can start to live healthier yourself, and then you can pass it on to your family, to your friends, your coworkers, your community. And it doesn't have to happen all at once. Just change with your breakfast. I tell people that all the time. Here's the thing. Do a smoothie at breakfast. If you want some oatmeal, some whole grain, gluten-free oats, right? You can see them. They're the real oats. They're the whole oats. Put some blueberries on top if you want, right? Because that's not the processed sugar that we're talking about. You can if you like eggs for breakfast, you can do eggs for breakfast. You can do that with a side of spinach. I prefer to do a smoothie. I want a massive amount of antioxidants in my body. I want that 15 grams of vegan-based protein, all right? I want all of the vitamins I need for the day. I want all the minerals I need for the day. And I put in my daily fruit and vegetable blends. And I do a probiotic in the morning. That's what I do. That's my protocol. And I'm telling you right now, you can say, oh, well, I want to do coenzyme Q10. I want to do turmeric. I want to do, yes, but that's after you do all the other things. That's why I call it my Dr. Cabral Daily Protocol. It's what I do every day of my life. And I honestly believe, and I don't care who you purchase the product from, but it should be an all-in-one where you get all your multivitamins, all your minerals that you need, and a protein to keep your blood sugar levels stable, okay? And then I think you should do a greens powder. I like the ones without inulin, without all the filler. Ours is just a plain, 22 organic fruits and vegetables. Now, please, these things have to be organic. You can't be putting all the pesticides in your body as you're trying to do a good thing. And then a probiotic. That's your staple. That is how to stay healthy from the beginning, but I'm going to keep it there. So if you're interested in looking at it, just go to StephenCabral.com / let's give you today's show notes for today, and then you can go to that. So StephenCabral.com / 585, and you can find the Dr. Cabral Daily Protocol with all the links right on that page as well. Thank you, everyone, for tuning into another Cabral Concept. Please do let me know if you have any questions, and if you enjoyed this show, feel free to pass it on to anyone you believe it could help. Once again, thank you for just tuning into the Cabral Concept. Most months, I try to bring you some special offer where I like to introduce you to something you may not be familiar with, but that I believe could dramatically improve your overall health and well-being. That's why for the month of September 2017, I'd like to share with you the #1 B-complex vitamin in the industry. This formula contains only the methylated versions of the B vitamins, such as B12 and folate, which means you get the safest and easiest way to naturally boost your levels. And if you're unfamiliar with the advantages of how B vitamins can help improve your life, they are known as the anti-stress and energy vitamin family. I personally take one with breakfast to give me an energy boost and better adapt to stress when working a lot or traveling. This is also the same exact formula I use in my functional medicine practice, and I want you to enjoy the same product my private wellness clients get. Plus, while supplies last, I'll be giving away 100 bottles this month with all qualifying purchases over $99. Limit one per customer and U.S. residents only. To get your free bottle today, simply go to stephencabral.com/store.